Hi, this is Julie with Beadaholique, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make a crystal skeleton. So he's really fun. He dangles, he moves, and you can even pose him if you want because he is wired. So we're going to be using Swarovski crystals combined with Toho seed beads, some wire, and head pins to make this guy. So let me show you your supplies that you're going to need. And before I do that, I just want to note I didn't turn him into anything just yet, but you could just hang a pre-made chain, make him into a necklace. Could have a pair of fabulously long earrings and make 2 of them. Could just have them as an ornament or a decoration. A lot of things you can do with him. So back to the supplies though. For the crystals, we're using Swarovski crystal, and the color is Crystal Light Chrome, but you can use, of course, whatever color you want. The 13mm skull bead is going to be his head. We're going to be using 2 8mm cubes, and then we're going to be using 6mm bicones, and I just love their sparkle. Then for the pairing of Toho seed beads, we're going to be using 2 different sizes. We've got an 11/0 and an 8/0, both in crystal lined gray, so that wonderful gray silver toned. 2 jump rings, these are 4mm in size. That's going to be when we get down to his hands. And then for his fingers and toes, we are using ball head pins. These are 2 inches in size, and they are 22 gauge. And then we're going to be using some 22 gauge artistic wire in silver plate finish for his body. And then those are the supplies. Now in terms of the tools, you're going to need 2 pairs of chain nose pliers, a pair of flush cutters, and a wire looping plier. I like wire looping pliers. You'll see me use them a lot in videos, especially for this application where we're going to be making a lot of simple wire loops. And then the final tool is a little bead stopper. So let me show you how to make this guy. We're going to start with some of the 22 gauge artistic wire, and we're just going to cut a length that's about 6 inches or so. We're going to actually have more than we need if we cut 6 inches. We're going to start by making a simple wire loop at the base. So I'm taking my wire looping pliers, and I'm just going to grab the end and curve it around. I just want a loop. Okay, so I've got a loop, but now I want the wire to stick up straight out of it. So I'm just going to take my wire and bend it back and then straighten it with my fingers. So now we have that nice loop right there ready to go. Before I go any further though, I want to make sure that my loop is closed so that end is lining up with the straight wire. There we go. And now we're going to create his main body. To do that, we're going to string on 1 of our cube beads, followed by an 8/0 seed bead, bicone, another 8/0 seed bead, our second cube bead, another 8/0 seed bead, and then right now we're just going to pause, and we're going to take our bead stopper and have it right here ready to go because we're going to be using it in a minute. So now let's go ahead and build his arms. We're going to take another length of the wire. I like to cut more wire than I need to for this particular project. I'm going to cut about 10 inches. And we're going to create, again, a simple wire loop. And then bend it back. So that's what we've got. Again, make sure it's nice and tightly closed. And we're going to string on 1 of his arms. So let me bring this guy over so you can see what we're doing as we build him. So we've built the core, and now we need to build the arm right here. So we're going to do 4 of the 8/0 seed beads. So 1, 2, 3, 4, followed by a bicone for his elbow. Now we need 4 more of the 8/0 seed beads, and then another bicone for his shoulder. So you see, I've got that right there. And now what we're going to do, and this is why I have the bead stopper up here, because I don't want these beads to fall off. I'm going to take my wire, and this is actually the most difficult part of the entire project, and it's not actually that difficult. It just requires you just holding your wires in place as you do this. So we want to go ahead and twist our end of the wire around this core wire that's the body. So I'm holding this tight so you can see that my beads are right up against my simple wire loop. And I'm right above that one bead that is on top of the cubit bead, and I'm going to wrap it. So I just do one wrap, like so. So now straighten out your wire again. So you want this wire to be nice and straight and strong. Okay. There we go. And now we're going to continue with our other arm. So we need another shoulder, followed by 4 more of these 8-0 seed beads. Then we need his elbow, and we need 4 more seed beads. So we've got his 2 arms now, and now we're going to create another simple wire loop. So hold your beads so the tension is nice and tight, and then right above the last bead, go ahead and put your wire looping pliers, and I really do recommend wire looping pliers for this project. If you have them, it just makes it so much easier. So we crimped with our pliers, so it did half the work for us. Just going to pull our wire down, rotate the pliers, and finish pulling our wire to create that loop. Now we're just going to trim off the excess wire and go in and straighten up our loop. So we've got the arms. Now let's finish the body and attach the head. I don't usually say that in jewelry making. So we've got the body, the arms. Now we need 3 more seed beads for the neck. Again, we're going to be using the larger size. We're not going to be using the small ones until it actually comes time to do the fingers and toes. So there's our neck. And now we need our skull. And now we're going to create a wrapped wire loop up top. So just grabbing the top of the wire, making sure all my beads are slid down. Rotate the pliers up, pull the wire over, and as you're still holding the loop with your pliers, create a couple wraps. Okay, and then we're going to trim off the excess with our cutters. And take our pliers and tuck in that rough wire end and straighten out our loop. He's coming along quite nicely. So now let's go ahead and build his legs. So to do that, I actually have a little bit of my wire still left over from what I just did with his arms. I'm going to just create that loop again at the base. And now to make his legs a little bit longer than his arms, instead of 4 seed beads between the bicones, I'm going to do 5. So let's start with 5 seed beads, again the 8-0 size, followed by a bicone, another 5 seed beads, and another bicone. And now we're going to create a simple wire loop up top. If you'd feel more comfortable, you can definitely create wrapped wire loops for these as well. I feel like this wire is strong enough that I can get away with a simple wire loop. There we go. Also note, if you do wrapped wire loops, you might have to add a few more jump rings between your connections, because in this case we are opening and closing the simple wire loops to use them instead of jump rings. I'll show you what I mean here in just a second. So let me create a second leg, and actually I still had enough wire, but if you need more, you have a whole spool, so you can just cut more. So 5 more of the 8-0 seed beads. A bicone. Five more seed beads and another bicone. And then another loop. And for this project, I'm not concerned that my loops match up, that they're facing the same direction or anything, because he's supposed to wiggle and move. Okay. So what I was talking about before, where you could get away with either simple loops or wrapped wire loops, but if you did wrapped wire, you might need a jump ring. This is what I mean. Here we're going to connect his legs to his body. If these were all wrapped wire loops, you would just need to add a jump ring to connect them, because the jump ring you'd be able to open and connect all these pieces, because you would not be able to open a wrapped wire loop. But because these are simple wire loops, we can open them just like jump rings, which is what I'm going to do right here. If he would stop wiggling on me. There we go. So we're opening that loop and we're sliding him onto the body. And we're closing the loop back up. We'll do that with the other leg. And there we go. All right, we are ready for his fingers and his toes. To do that, we'll be using the smaller seed beads, and we're going to start with his hands. And I'm going to be using these ball head pins. So they have a nice ball at the end, which I think is kind of fun. Looks like maybe a fingernail or something like that. And for his hands, we want, of course, 5 fingers on each hand. So we're going to start by just putting on 2 of the 11-0 seed beads and then creating a simple wire loop. And then trimming it. And if you'll notice on the one I already created, on each hand, put it down here, it might be a little easier to see. There are, of course, 5 fingers. On 4 of them, we added 2 seed beads each, and on 1 for his middle finger, we added 3, just so that the hand, because you'll notice your hand looks more like a V, it tapers. So I wanted that look on the skeleton as well. So on 1 of the fingers, we're going to add 3 seed beads, and on the other 4, it's just going to be 2 seed beads each. Here's another 2. So here I did 3, so it's just a little bit longer. And my final one will be 2. So now that I've got all the fingers of one hand made, I'm going to go back and just make sure that all of my simple loops are nice and closed and tight. And we're going to take a jump ring to use as the palm of his hand. So we're going to open it by finding the slit. This is an open jump ring, so there's going to be a slit in it, and we want to make sure that's up top. And we're going to grab it on either side with a pair of chain nose pliers and twist. And then we're going to load on our fingers. So we've got 2 fingers with 2 seed beads, then the middle one with 3 seed beads, and then the other 2. And then we're going to connect this to his arm and close it up. So he now has a hand. So we're going to repeat that process for his other hand. Exact same technique. All right, our skeleton now has a body, a head, 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 hands, and now he just needs 2 feet. So to do that, it's going to be the same process as the hands, but I'm going to make them a little bit longer. So I'm going to put 4 seed beads on each toe. So here we go. Same exact process. I should note though, we're not going to be using a jump ring down here. We're just going to be connecting the toes right onto that little simple wire loop. Okay, so since we're directly attaching the toes and the foot to the leg, I'm just opening up each of my simple wire loops and attaching them to that base simple wire loop at the end of the leg. So just open these just as you would open a jump ring, just twist them open, attach it to the loop, and twist it back shut. And of course, if you want to use this method for the hand as well, you could and get away without using a jump ring, or you could use a jump ring for the foot. So whatever you want to do. All right, 1 foot to go. All right. He is done. Let me clear all of this extra stuff away so you can see the 2 skeletons. So a fun thing to note is if you want to make multiples of these, you're going to have plenty of wire, you're going to have plenty of seed beads, you're going to have enough bicones and enough cube beads to do 2 of them. You would just need to purchase some extra of the ball head pins and an extra skull to make a pair. So here we go. Here are our guys. So we have got 2 crystal skeletons all ready to go. You can find all the supplies for these as well as other projects using the skull beads and a lot of other crystal projects as well at Beadaholique.com.